Welcome to the Bookman Show. My name is James Renford Powell, and this is the show where we deal with the what, who, where, when, why, and how you can get your book into print. Now, a lot of you have books in your head, some have writings, some have all types of things that could make a book and are not aware of it. And this is a show that you can get some ideas about that, and you can also write in with your questions. In fact, today we're going to be dealing with questions. Now, we have had on the show people that we have published, because this show is brought to you in part by IAM Press, a publishing company that specializes in work with first-time authors. But it's also in part by the Institute of Applied Metaphysics, the Church of Revelation, and One Community, which is available. All of this is available in the Memphis area, and this is coming to you from the Memphis area, but we will hopefully be able to assist and help people anywhere who have questions and who need assistance in this process of getting their dream into reality, into print. The shows that we have had have included books that have had a great deal of impact worldwide, and we have had experts come and talk to us about those books. So it is all about books, but with a certain amount of emphasis on the process of producing your own books. The show today will revolve around questions that we have received that we think that you as listeners would like to know about. And one of the first things that people ask is, well, where do I start? This seems to be a daunting thing for most. And of course, most professionals say, well, you need to start by writing about what you know. But that's really alone is not sufficient advice. That is true, but there are other things that need to be considered. This is literally a creative process. And as one of the famous metaphysicians has written, everything is the process of the unmanifested becoming manifested. If you look around the room you're sitting in, you'll see that everything in there, including the clothes that you're wearing, had to exist in somebody's mind before it could possibly be physical reality. It has to exist in thought first. Thought creates form. Without thought, there can be no form. If you want to write, you start thinking. And if it's nothing more than sitting on your bed in the morning and thinking for 20 or 30 minutes, this is the beginning of the process. What is the creative process? This is where does inspiration and so forth come from? And I suggest to you that you have to go back to the basics and think about this process. There's a story of the legendary football coach with the Green Bay Packers, Vince Lombardi, who had a very bad first half, and he goes back into the locker room and he picks up a football and he holds this up for the players, and he said, "Gentlemen, this is a football." Vince Lombardi knew how to go back to the basics. All right. Those of you who are Christian-oriented, you might want to go back to the book of Genesis and look at this process that's recorded there, whether you believe the literal story or mythical story or however you see it. The process of creation is clearly outlined. Think about it. It says that in the beginning the earth was empty and it was void. God created the heavens and the earth, and it was empty and void. And then it talks about the Spirit of God moving over the face of the waters. But what is the first thing that was created? It was light. All right, so he had to turn on the light to see what he was doing, right? The next thing was to divide the waters above from the waters below. The next he went into creating the basins for the ocean, then the vegetation. And after the vegetation, then there were the animals, and then there was man. Now, God didn't just create man and stick him out in the void. Everything was a process. The interesting thing is that on the seventh day, he rested. All right. Now, if you use the term rest, one would assume that one is going to restart or at some point begin work again. He saw that all that he had created was good, and when he had finished that work, he rested. All right. I suggest to you that the creative process is continual and has been continual all through time, and that you are part of the process of creation. So whatever you're doing in this life, you're the one creating the life, and you are leaving behind you what you have created. So this is, if you are looking in terms of creating books, if you're a painter or whatever you are, all of this and whatever you're doing, all of it is a part of the process of creation. Now, you can read a lot of books about how to create a business, or how to be successful salesman, how to successfully trade in the stock market, how to successfully write books. There are all kinds of books out there on the process of success, or the so-called secret to success. I suggest to you that there is not a secret to success. When you talk about, or when the insurance companies and those who do the statistics say that 85% of the people at age 65 are not financially independent, all right, that they're still dependent on something or someone, then we're talking about, in their minds, 85% failure ratio. If you're looking at it that way, then 15% are those who have discovered the secret. I think not. There's 15% who have recognized that it is a process. All right. Everything is a process. Find out what the process is and have the persistency and consistency to stick with the process, and you'll get where you want to go. And this is what we are here to help with, if we can. You can take all the books. They're just hundreds of books on success and self-help and so forth. And if you stack them all together across this floor here, I mean, it would fill up this room, this part of the studio. All right. But if you analyze what these books say, they're basically saying the same thing in different ways with different emphasis. In the bottom line is, they're all saying that you must know what you want. All right. And some of them will emphasize you have to know specifically what you want. You have to be able to see it, in your sleep, type of thing. They say you must know what you want. Second thing is, they say you must design a plan to get what you want. And then the third step, they say, for success is that you must have the desire, the persistency, and the consistency to see that plan through. All right? Now, some people think that the most difficult thing is that consistency and persistency. You can read a book like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which is famous for a lot of people in business have read this book, and you'll see that there's a great deal of emphasis on being persistent and consistent in the process. He even tells the story about the man who got within 3 feet during the gold rush in California, and he got within 3 feet of the mother lode and gave up, sold it, and the other fellow hit it the next day. All right, you have all kinds of stories of this type, which is showing the reason that you must be persistent and consistent in your objectives. And with writing, you have to be persistent and consistent. You do have to have the discipline to do some writing every day, or thinking about that project. I mean, it must be something that you allow and set aside the time for. Other people think that finding it, and they spend their whole lives looking for a system or a design or a plan or some way to create wealth. This being their major objective. I really think that one of the most difficult things is in knowing what you want. It's very difficult to know exactly what you want. Most of us know what we want only by knowing what we don't want. All right, we don't want to be poor. We don't want to go to jail. We don't want to be sick. We don't want. And then we have this narrow window here that we look at and say, well, that's what I want. All right? But knowing what you want is not an easy process. And I think that those who fail to realize that there is a step before these 3 steps miss the boat. All right, what we have here is a need to know who we are. If we don't know who we are, how can we possibly know what we want? What do I mean by know who we are? Know what our capabilities are. Know what we're inclined to do and be, and how that we're going to proceed with achieving some objective, and in fact knowing exactly what we want. That's really contingent upon knowing who we are. We're going to take just a moment's break now, and we'll be back in a few moments and talk about, we'll first have the Poet's Porch, and then after that we'll come back and continue with some of the questions that we received regarding writing. That we call Poet's Porch, and I want to read something I call the Renford affirmation. It's a suggested affirmation that I do with my students and people I'm working with, and because we've been talking about the process of creation, which is in relation primarily to books, we're talking about writers and so forth, but it's equally true of anybody who is creating a business or organization or anything of any kind that requires the creative process. So this is what we've been talking about in the first portion of the show. And I want to read you what I call the Renford affirmation. I want you to listen to it carefully, because my students and people that I work with, I ask them to read this for 27 days, the first thing in the morning and the last thing at night. And the reason that I ask them to do this is a mindset change. This is a different way of looking at things. And so you keep this in mind, and then if you would like a copy of it, you just write in to the address that we provide you, and we will send you a copy of the Renford affirmation. The Renford affirmations read as follows: I know that anything I can conceive and believe I can achieve. Every day ideas are coming to me. Every day I gain more confidence because I believe in myself. God dwells in me, and I can access God power by recognizing my innate powers. I know that there are certain universal principles or laws upon which all laws, including the laws of physics, rest. I am persistent in my identification of these laws of life. I am using my innate powers to come into harmony with these laws of life. I know that these laws are the divine self-expression, and that through understanding them in my life, I can be still and know God. I see all problems as obstacles that simply require a learning process. I love them because they exist in divine love for my benefit. I understand that proper perspective is necessary to begin any work, and I'm daily developing the capability to view my life in proper perspective. The essence of God is in me, and I am pure potentiality. Every thought I have creates. I am aware that I can create destructively as easily as I can create constructively. Therefore, my every thought is observed as if I were outside looking in. Negative and fearful thoughts are immediately apprehended and brought into the light from the dark corners and hidden caverns of my mind. In their place, creative and constructive thoughts are building the edifice of self-knowledge and understanding, which is my divine birthright. I know that there are no limits upon the abundance that is available to me except those that I place upon myself. I am releasing all thoughts that restrict or limit me. I am attracting all the skills, people, and materials that I need to fulfill my primary purpose. These assets and attributes are daily being placed on the infrastructure that I have created in thought. I am manifesting what I have imaged in thought. I know that I am not alone, but part of the absolute unity of all. I know that every action has a reaction. I know that all is connected. Therefore, there are always consequences of my thoughts, attitudes, and actions. I observe this and daily create an ever-expanding positive force. I am giving of myself every day in every way. I share my wealth, time, knowledge, and I am rewarded in multiples of my giving. It is inevitable that I receive when I give because this is an expression of a universal law, my divine birthright. I know that no matter what I give or receive, there is only one essential ingredient, and this ingredient is the makeup of God. It is love. Every time I share my knowledge, wealth, or time, I am giving packets of love, packets of God. I do this daily. Love is all that I have been given, and it is all that I can give. I give love freely and daily. I know where I am, who and what I am, and what I am capable of. I know that my capacity for energetic activity, creative thought, and love are endless, and that my energy supplier, universal being, is infinite. I take responsibility for what I have and will create. I know that what I create in thought and give the power of emotion to will be manifested. I am in every way creating my life. Thank you. We'll be back in a moment with the last portion of the show, The Bookman Show. I'm James Renford Powell. I want to remind viewers that we also have 5 radio shows a week. This is on the RBR network, Radio by Renford Network, which is accessible through Blog Talk Radio. That's www.blogtalkradio.com/Renford. And that takes you to the RBR network page. And you can listen, all of the shows are archived, so you can listen to all of those shows at any time. On Monday evenings at 6:30, Cosmic Contacts comes to you, and that is hosted by Pam Drinnon. And in this show, she usually has guests who are either healers, non-traditional type of healers, or they are intuitives. She's had medium on the show. This is a very interesting show, and a lot of it is very interactive with you calling in, because all you have to do is call 347-838-9142 and you're into the show. If you want to ask questions, you just press the 1 button on your touchtone dial, and that will flag our RBR director, Cecil McDaniel, and moderator to bring you into the show. So that's something you can do anytime. We also have at 8 o'clock the Searcher's Roadmap show hosted by Keith Blanchard. He's doing a show called Countdown to 2012, and some very interesting guests on that show as well. Then on Tuesday it's the IAM-Well show, and that's all about alternate forms of healing, and we have a new program starting up. This has already been around for a year, but we've got a new host and a new startup there. And then on Wednesday I host the No Show, and that's the KNOW show. And you don't want to be a no-show on the No Show, because we really have some interesting guests on that show. It's of a general nature. It's just whoever I think ought to have more publicity that people ought to know about their experience or their vocation or whatever that's that I think would be of interest to you. And then on Thursday, coming from New York, is the Progressive News Weekly show hosted by Darryl Clark. And this is more a matter of current events and situations that are might be of some interest to you viewers for today. You know, it's today's happenings type of thing. So you're welcome to those shows, and you're welcome to go to the website that is shown and view the virtual campus of the Institute of Applied Metaphysics, and download some free books and things like that. That's open to everybody. I want to go back to answering some of the questions that have been coming in, and one question, of course, is where do we get help? And there are multiple places that you can get help. There are different schools and writing groups and so forth. We ourselves at IAM Press specialize in working with first-time authors. Many of our authors have now done more than one book. But we work through a process where in 3 stages. And the first stage is to put the author in the position of making informed decisions. In other words, edumacation here. We want to make sure that you know what you have to do, what things cost, what the timetable is like, what the possible obstacles are, and what the difficulties are, so that by the time we finish that first stage, you really know what to look for, you know what you got to do, and you're not in any way operating in the dark. And the fact is that most people that are writing are operating in the dark and have very little concept of the business. And the business has changed drastically over the last 10 years. I mean, it's just publishing is a very different business than it was. So we want to put you in the position of knowing what's what and being able to make informed decisions. The second phase, if you give us the go-ahead, is to produce the book, and that will involve everything from ISBN, barcode, book cover design, editing, proofing, formatting. Every book is formatted 3 ways. It's formatted for our physical printing, it's formatted for ebooks, and it's formatted for the fulfillment centers out there that will actually print and drop ship one book. So for the convenience of people from other parts of the world who purchase your book. So because you don't want to have to be the one putting those in the box and sending out each one of them. So all of that is including what goes onto the back. We may also help design a trifold for marketing of the book and so forth. As we go into the third phase, it has to do with marketing and distribution of that book. So what's the use of producing it if you're not going to make it available? Now, the fact is that you can, if you find a traditional publisher, they will pay for everything, and they will put it in the bookstores and so forth. If you are writing a nonfiction book and you're the one that's going to have to be out there marketing the book, you marketed it online, you're marketing it by doing seminars, workshops, and speaking engagements, this is your intellectual property. Why should you be the one that goes out and sells it and then only get a royalty of 10% or whatever on that book? So why not retain ownership of that intellectual property? If it's a novel or a book of a different kind that must be out there and promoted by a major publishing house, then that's different. And we work with the authors on that process too. We do not want to stand in the way of that author getting a substantial bonus or somebody signing or purchasing that property. But you have to know what the situation is that you're getting into. In other words, you need to know the right terms and so forth for that contract and to be covered in it. There have been authors who have produced, and one in particular that I know of that was a children's book, and it was purchased by a small publishing house. They did nothing with the book because they had another one very similar to it, and they would not sell that property back to the author. All right, so these are things that you certainly want to avoid. Any kind of scam. There are what is called vanity press, where basically they're producing the book, but that's it. and then you give it to your friends and you say, I've written a book, and then that's that. We want to market those books. This is the third level, and we want to be able to produce sales for you through our bookstores, through our marketing packages, and so forth. So while we make money on the production of the book, the fact is, if we're going to make any real money, we have to sell the book, and we have to work together with the author to do that. So these are some of the things that you need to know, and so we try to keep you up to date and aware of all these situations that have to do what you should watch out for. This is all part of that process. How to avoid scams. I don't know how to tell you to avoid scams. The only thing is to check everything. Anything anybody comes and proposes to you, check it out. Don't take anybody's word for anything, certainly when it comes to your intellectual property, because this is your life, and you're pouring this life out on a piece of paper, and this is something that is part of your creative process, and to compromise it by allowing someone to misuse it is a terrible waste. So we are very careful to work with our authors on this particular subject. What is the cost of producing a book is another question that comes up a lot. I would say that this is so hard to answer because it depends on the number of pages. It depends on whether you have illustrations, especially pictures or color, graphics and so forth, add to the cost of production. It also adds to the cost of printing when you're ready to print the book. So it's a little bit difficult to answer, but I would say on the average it's somewhere between $1,500 and $2,500, all depending upon the size and the amount of problems connected with it. And it can be less, and it can be more. I'm just trying to give you a general idea of $1,500 to $2,500 to produce the book. Obviously, to market and distribute the book, it's going to be a lot more than that over a period of time, and there are a lot of free things that you can utilize, and there's a lot of things that we do with you, and there's a lot of advertising that you can get by being on shows and so forth. So there's a lot of things you can do to market your book to limit the amount of your expenses, but you needn't think that you can market the book for nothing. That's generally not going to happen. One of the obstacles for entrepreneurs who start a new business and for authors who are writing a book is unrealistic expectations.